So, welcome everybody. Eli, let's put our first slide up. You got it? Okay, great. Okay, so we are alone in a crowd with Reverend Sharon Burniston. And before we get started, I am going to put a poll up here real quick. So let me find my poll. And here we go. I'm going to launch the poll. Just quickly, everybody answer the poll as quickly as you can. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Then we have 73% have voted. Okay. So this first question is directed for our speaker. And Sharon, I hope this gives you some information about us. I think this happens to all of us. And I want to welcome 9 people who are here for the very first time. Everybody, welcome. And wow, we have 7 women who've come 20 or more times. We've had 25 meetings. That's amazing. And you want to keep going every 2 weeks. You're going to kill me. No, I love it. Okay, and let's see. Okay, so here's the results I'm going to share with you, and then we are going to move on. So let me introduce our speaker, Sharon Burniston, who is a board-certified palliative care chaplain in an acute care hospital in New Jersey, where she works with an interdisciplinary team of doctors, nurse practitioners, and social workers to treat symptoms and support patients and families dealing with complex medical decision-making. She is ordained by the United Methodist Church and helped create the national standards for chaplains to be specifically certified in palliative care and hospice. And I hope, Sharon, that you will explain the difference between the two. She regularly gives lectures to medical staff on the spiritual distress that can occur with various diseases and conditions, and her own experience with Parkinson's and disability, she is legally blind, has helped her to think outside of the box when it comes to living well. So with that, Eli, we're going to stop my screen sharing, and Sharon, it's all yours.
Great, thank you. I'm really excited to talk to you guys today. Let me get rid of this.
Okay, well, one real quick thing. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat.
Yeah, put them in the chat, and Sharon's going to help me with them afterwards. So I'm really excited because I found Sunday Mornings with Twitchy a couple of months ago, actually several in the summer, and I have really enjoyed, learned a lot and enjoyed sharing with you all. And I've had this thing that's been tickling the back of my mind, this perspective I have from palliative care that I've been thinking I'd like to share with you. So when Sharon put it out there, anybody have any ideas? I'm like, yeah, I got something. So let me explain palliative care. Palliative care is not the same as hospice. Hospice is care that's given to patients who have a life expectancy of 6 months or less. It's holistic care that's given, and people consider and think about total pain, not just physical pain, but emotional pain, social pain, and spiritual pain. But as time went on, after the hospice movement had begun to get its legs, people started to say, wait a minute, why do I need to wait till the end before I have that kind of extra support and care? Because people going through life-threatening, serious illness, they want to be thinking about their lives in a holistic way and treated in a holistic way earlier. And so I work with nurse practitioners, doctors, social workers, and we don't work in a silo. We work all together in an interdisciplinary way to treat symptoms. And especially in the hospital, we're often talking to people about sort of fork in the road times, medical decisions. Do I want this aggressive chemotherapy, or do I want to go with a different type, or do I want to maybe it's time to switch to hospice? How do I feel about life support for myself or maybe for loved ones? things like that. People often think that I have a very depressing job. They often say, oh my gosh, how can you possibly do that? But I absolutely love it. And one of the reasons why I think I'm suited for the job is because I have a deep feeling and philosophy that says there's lots of ways of being okay. Lots of ways of being okay. And I have experienced that myself because in my late 20s, I began to lose my vision due to a juvenile form of macular degeneration. Over 30 years now, my vision at this point is about 2400. Typical normal vision is about 20/20. So at this time, I can't drive. I don't read without special equipment or magnification. Can't recognize the faces of my family members. But I have to tell you, I have a very good, high quality life. I've gone to graduate school. I have a great career. I've raised a family. And about 5 years ago, I started to have some different symptoms that I couldn't explain. I knew there was something wrong with me. Many of you have a story similar to this one. I knew there was something wrong, and I went to doctor after doctor, specialist after specialist, until finally, after about 2 years, I was given the diagnosis of Parkinson's, which was surprising and a little shocking. But I said to people, my friends and my family, you know what? I know how to do this. I've been dealing with disability. I journey every day in my job with people who are facing a new normal. And I know there's lots of ways of being okay. So I know I got this. Well, sometimes you understand something and get it up here. And that's not the same thing as getting it here. So as I began to wrestle with my diagnosis and with my symptoms, I found that I had a tool that I used from my work in palliative care chaplaincy, a spiritual distress analysis model that I kind of used for myself. And it really helped me to name and claim the things that were going on and sort of reframe and help me redirect and think about it. So that's what I want to share with you today. So now I'm going to share my screen. First, I want to say, alone in a crowd. I love this picture that Sharon came up with actually for this in the invitation that you all got. I love this feeling of these smiley face people. They're all around you and you're just sort of sitting there in the middle, feeling lonely. And it was interesting that you did the poll right away. And I would say the majority of the people that answered the poll said that they actually definitely, at least sometimes, feel very lonely. But I love this quote because I think it sort of encapsulates it. And it's from an ancient philosopher, Roman philosopher, who said, "Who is there in all the world who listens to us? Here I am. This is me in my nakedness, with my wounds, my secret grief, my despair, my betrayal, my pain, which I can't express, my terror, my abandonment. Oh, listen to me for a day, an hour, a moment, lest I expire in my terrible wilderness, my lonely silence. Oh God, is there no one to listen?" And I think that this quote, as painful as it is, talks to that feeling of being so alone. And while people often say they have great compassion, to me, true compassion, the definition of compassion is to be able to journey with somebody. But sometimes, even those other people might be willing to journey with you, you're not able to accept that. And there's statistics, there's research that's come out recently and that says that Parkinson's symptoms are actually worse for people who say that they are lonely, 55% greater symptom severity, 21% more symptoms. And people who are socially isolated and say they have fewer friends, they also have a lower quality of life. So what's going on here? Which comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? Is it the social isolation? I'm by myself, so now I feel lonely, or am I lonely because it's sort of circular? And to me, I think the question starts even before the chicken or the egg. To me, I think identifying some spiritual distress elements can sort of spark off that loneliness and sort of set you off into a pattern of isolation. So what is spiritual distress? Is it religious? Is it emotional? Is it psychological? Is it social? And my answer is yes. So here's a very wordy definition that comes from palliative care that says spirituality is a dynamic dimension of human life that relates to the way persons, individual and community, experience, express, and/or seek meaning, purpose, and transcendence, and the way they, now listen to the important part, the way they connect to the moment, to self, to others, to nature, to the significant, and/or the sacred. Religion is a way of expressing spirituality, but it's not the whole of spirituality. So what I've used in my hospital work is a spiritual distress model that comes from an evidence-based research. And it breaks spirituality into 4 dimensions. And I find this extremely helpful in explaining and identifying and thinking about myself and about others. There's 4 needs that we all have as human beings, all of us. We need to make meaning. We have a need for transcendence, for values, and for psychosocial identity. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to break each one of these categories down, explain what it is, talk about why I think people with Parkinson's are actually really at high risk of having distress in each one of these areas. And then with each category, I'm going to give you ways to sort of cope and think and help with these situations. So it's not all bad news, trust me. So first of all, let's go with meaning. We all have a need to make meaning. This is a human need that is so strong that we will actually do things harmful to ourselves in order to make sense of our world. And when we have the loss of what we've assumed our world to be, again, we'll do actually destructive things. And the best example of this, I heard a story told by Rabbi Harold Kushner, who wrote the book years ago, Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. And he tells this story about how in his backyard, he has a bird feeder. And every day he goes to the bird feeder and he puts bird food in it, right? And the birds come and they fly around and they eat the bird seed and they fly away. And he says every once in a while, he forgets to put bird seed in the bird feeder. And when he does it, the strangest thing happens. The birds do not sit around and say, why did Harold forget us? Did you poop on Harold's car? What can we do to make Harold remember us? No, they fly off and they find more food. But human beings will sit around the bird feeder and starve in order to make sense of things. So, meaning, and I hope you can see this picture, I love this picture. When we're in distress, it's like our world is sideways. We're walking straight up and down and the world is crooked. It feels off balance. I think all of us have felt this way over the last year, right? We know intellectually what's going on, but it just feels like the world is crooked for so many, many different reasons. Sometimes people will say things like, this doesn't make any sense. This isn't fair. I'm not going to be able to get through this. And it's not about them not understanding intellectually. It's about them trying to cope with the new world. And I think in Parkinson's disease, you're particularly at risk for this because how meaning for medical personnel, for medical conditions is usually done through what we see and what we can measure. But they call Parkinson's often a snowflake disease, right? Because each person is unique in their symptoms and how they react. But how do you measure a snowflake? How do you figure out exactly what's right for every person or how each symptom is being reacted to? And research is done on things that you can measure. That's how it's funded. You need to be able to measure things, measure data. And the symptoms, sometimes your non-motor symptoms especially, they're hard to explain to a doctor, or you might not even know that that's a Parkinson's symptom when you go to your doctor to tell them about it. So many things can be so difficult. And treatments, right? What should I be eating? What kind of medications I should be taking? How do I keep from progressing? We've got ideas, but there's nothing cut and dried. I remember when I first was diagnosed and my doctor wanted to talk to me about medicine and I wanted a magic pill, but it's not there. So how do you deal with that? How do you stand tall on firm ground? And the first thing that I have found for myself is, yes, educate yourself, but Dr. Google and I were like this, okay? Dr. Google and I can look at all kinds of things and it's very helpful to understand. But what I found actually is that educating myself with faces is really helpful. That's why Sunday Mornings with Twitchy Women is so effective. Because sometimes we're not getting completely new information, right? But we're seeing people explain it to us. And it sort of comes in and it makes sense in our world. Watching webinars. I did Laura Mishley's PD school. Sharon sent us something on this new Metaflex streaming service. Even if it's not another person with Parkinson's, but even just the doctor or the researcher speaking to you helps make it feel more real. Also, find friends for this particular season. Friends that don't have Parkinson's. One very close friend of mine is going through a very difficult divorce. Our worlds are all very sideways and crooked. And we're just able to be and journey with each other in this time. So when you're talking about medical, folks, partner with people and put together a team for yourself. Don't assume that all practitioners are equal. They're not all the same. And you might have somebody that's perfect for you right now for this reason or this season, but you don't got to marry them, right? It doesn't have to be for a lifetime. So a good example for me is I found this physical therapist who was perfect for me. Perfect. Because you know what he did? He gave me permission and told me I didn't have to exercise every day. In fact, he told me I had to take days off. And he also gave me this very regimented schedule. Now, for me, when I first started, this was really helpful. It helped me keep from getting overwhelmed. But now, learning more and hearing more, I probably wouldn't go back to that physical therapist. But knowing that, just trusting your body, trusting yourself, and hearing that who's giving you your advice for this time, this team, partnering that way. So let's move out of meaning for a minute and let's go to transcendence. Transcendence is the need for connecting to something outside of yourself. This is the bucket that people often put religion. It's also the need for beauty. It's where the aesthetic sense is. I say to people who are having trouble kind of understanding what I'm talking about, I'm like, you ever stand at the beach and you just feel like there's something greater than yourself? There are people who very connected to nature. In the hospital, when we have the therapy dogs come, I can see certain people, they just light up because they need to get their fingers in some fur. So that kind of transcendent connection is out, also what reaches in and helps ground you. But what happens when you're losing that? What happens when you don't have something to hold on to? When you feel like you can't paint anymore? When you feel like usually you stand at the top of the mountain and now you can't climb? when your community, your church, your yoga friends aren't there. In Parkinson's, I think we're really at risk for losing our anchor. If it's what's our go-to transcendent connection. For instance, if singing is your thing, there's PD vocal changes, right? You all know this. If it's friends, I have this situation. Sometimes I'm just too tired to talk to everybody, or I'm in the middle of a conversation and I just can't keep going. Gardening, food, gut situations, all of these things can happen from Parkinson's and from your symptoms. So now you feel disconnected from your anchor. And the emotional and non-motor things like depression, apathy, anxiety, that's back to the chicken or the egg. Because yes, those can keep you from connecting, but also if you're on the boat in the middle of the ocean and you've lost your anchor, I think you're going to be a little depressed. You might be a little apathetic if you think there's no way to fix this, and you're going to be really anxious. So, how do you find your anchor? Well, you try something new, or turn something on its side that's been your regular go-to. Let me give you an example. So, I am not a music person. My husband is a music person, but I'm not necessarily. But I know from my job, there's all kinds of research that has shown that music can hugely shift and change people's lives and change people's moods, I meant to say. And what they've actually found through research is that all of us have a personal playlist. It's that music that was being played for us on the radio or whatever in our teens and early 20s. It's that music that comes on a movie soundtrack. You know, the one, that song that comes on and all of a sudden you know all the words and you don't even know how you know all those words and you haven't heard that song in 20 years. That's your personal playlist. And when you play that kind of music for about 10 minutes, it can really shift and change. Here's an example from me. One day I had to go out and do a brisk walk, which I did not want to do. But I knew about music, so I got my phone and I put Spotify, like a 70s road trip playlist on there. Started walking, started listening, and then all of a sudden, I started laughing. It was Barry Manilow doing the Copacabana. And I was doing, her name is Lola. She is a showgirl. Can you tell that I don't sing so well? But I was going, at the Copacabana. I am dancing and singing and laughing. And I know I'm going to be okay. I'm not the gardener, but sometimes I go out and I put my hand on a tree trunk. Or I look at a flower. Or I take something that has been my thing, which would be prayer. Hey, I'm a professional prayer, right? But sometimes it doesn't work for me. I can go to work, pray at work, and I come home and I feel kind of empty. So I had a hard time and I went and got a book and did a lot more meditation. Did more work on meta meditation. I'm talking to people about human design. So I'm taking that natural avenue for myself, but I'm shifting it and looking at it differently. I want to talk a little bit about gratitude versus delight. I really believe in gratitude and exercising the gratitude muscle. When everybody says, write down 3 things every day that you're grateful for, say it before a meal. And I do believe in that. But I had a point, I think it was right when the pandemic started, and I was having trouble with that. It just felt so heavy. I was grateful I wasn't on a vent today with COVID. I was grateful that my PD had not advanced to some horrible place. It just was too much. So I saw this book and I came up with this word about delight. And instead of gratitude, I said, you know what? I'm going to work on my delight muscle. And I am delighted today the way that chocolate feels on my tongue. I'm delighted the way the sun hits my face and warms me. I could be delighted about a silly text that my daughter sends me. It's momentary, but when you pay attention to it, your delight muscle starts to strengthen and starts to get a little better and stronger. I also, because I'm a chaplain and I want to talk just for a quick second about the why question. Why me, right? Why me, God? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, that's above my pay grade. I'm putting that one down. I changed the question. I don't even ask why. I go to where. Where are you, God? Where are you right now? And God's chocolate on my tongue. God's in the twitchy women on Sundays. God is in Barry Manilow singing the Copacabana. So let's go to the next topic, which is values. We've done meaning, we've done transcendence, and now we're going to talk about values. And we all have values, things that matter and are important to us. But there are two dimensions in values. One is we need to have our values acknowledged by others. We also need to have control. We need to believe that we can act in a way and determine what matters to us. But sometimes, again, in Parkinson's, it's hard about having your values acknowledged. You go into your doctor. Anybody ever felt like you're a widget on a conveyor belt? Where the doctor's looking too much at the chart, going through everything and looks at you in the eye for about 2 seconds at a time? Or sometimes I've got friends, and I know most of you have had somebody say something really stupid to you, right? Oh, I know all about Parkinson's. My grandfather had it. The last 20 years of his life were miserable. Or that friend that looks at you with that pitying glance and says, how are you? They're not seeing you. They're not seeing what matters to you in that moment. And with Parkinson's specifically, I think it's a condition where I can't always control what's going on. Even if I take my medication regularly, even if I'm doing my exercise, I'm doing everything right, I'm eating everything right, I can still feel lousy. I can still have a really tough day. And sometimes there's not an answer why. So then I feel like, can I really control it for tomorrow? And I have loving, caring family and friends, and maybe you do too, that they want to control. They want to help. They want to fix, right? So sometimes my husband will say, I'm like, I'm so tired. He's like, well, you should go and exercise. And I'm like, no, I don't want to exercise. I'm like a 2-year-old. I don't want to exercise. Get away from me. I'm tired. Leave me alone, right? Then he leaves the room and I slink out the back and I go and I exercise, right? But it's about me determining, me feeling in control. And sometimes hovering, caretaker, supportive people can be a little bit much. So what do? You take control of what you can. First of all, when you go to the doctor or any practitioner, bring one question. Now they'll often say, if you have a long list, write down your list and bring it with you when you come. But I would say this is for a different reason. Go with something. Go with something in your mind you want to talk about. And maybe it's the exact same thing the doctor wants to talk about. But taking that one thing of yours, at least one thing, makes it you're in control of that appointment. And it helps you connect with that practitioner. My other suggestion is to join an advocacy group. Somebody that's sending you often, frequently, to-dos or tips. But this is the most important part. Ignore all the tips and the to-dos you want to. Delete. You don't have to do them all. Sometimes it's overwhelming. So having those opportunities, having that stuff, things that you can choose, but also feeling free to say no. Which is to the next point. Give yourself days off. Name it. Today's my day off, not doing it. Or your day on. Today's my day to wallow in wine. I actually have crying songs that make me cry. When I have that feeling overwhelmed, I'll put on my crying song. And then I'm doing all right afterwards. But the important thing is to name it as your day off or your day on. Because when you name it as that, it keeps you from getting into that cycle. Because if I've chosen it today, it means tomorrow I'm going to choose something else. And I get really mad at myself if I say, you know what, I just can't do it. I'm not going to exercise today. And then the next day I'm like, oh, shoot. Why did I do that yesterday? But I'm like, no, today's going to be my day back on. And also, be sure to tell your friends and family, thank you very much, but I need to be in charge today. Name it. Say it. That gives them the honor and the respect that you're hearing them. You know how much they care. But it's also giving them the pushback to not hover. This is the last category. And I love this picture. The picture is my favorite. I found this years ago because I think it's so great. Are you a cow or are you a cat saying meow? It's when you feel like who you are. You're not who you are. People aren't seeing the person that you think you are. My friends don't know what to say to me. And the main one that I find for this for myself is this last one, which is, I don't usually act like this. This isn't who I am. And I think persons with Parkinson's who have anxiety or depression symptoms, this can really hit you hard. If you've always been the happy-go-lucky one, I've always been the problem solver, but then I became very overwhelmed when I had my diagnosis. And I needed to let other people problem solve for me. But it didn't make me, I didn't feel like myself. And what's the stereotype of the Parkinson's patient? Old, needy, burdensome, sad, dependent, life is over. And did you hear what I said? The stereotype of the Parkinson's patient, right? Patient, not necessarily person with Parkinson's. And I really wanted to bring this up to this group because it's something I heard about years ago from a disability theologian named Nancy Eastland, which is good girl syndrome. And for women, we are often been taught from childhood to be pleasing, reluctant to ask for help, always smiling and nodding, even if you don't really understand what's going on, because you don't want to trouble other people. Don't want to be too difficult. Lucky, when people are kind to you, that's what you feel. And Susan Lehman gave me this one, which is Burnt Toast, which is the name of a book by Terry Hatcher. And she says, we as women, we make toast for everybody and there's one burnt piece. And who takes that one? We do, right? So it makes it hard to ask for help. It makes it hard when you're the good girl all the time. So how do you work with this? And I say you name and you claim your unchanging essence of who you are, who you always have been and who you always will be. And the first step in that is celebrating interdependence. In our Western culture, we have always valued independence as the highest place of achievement, right? I'm independent. Whereas Eastern cultures value interdependence. And I think they kind of have it right. And I think we're all learning more about it when we think about the economy, when we think about ecology and our world. I think interdependence is actually the way we're meant to be and the way we're meant to live. So when you don't want other people to help you and care for you, I want you to think for a minute, how do you feel when you care for other people? How does that make you feel? How has that always made you feel? It makes you feel good. Well, don't hog it all for yourself. Sometimes allowing somebody else to help you is giving them that good feeling. It's not always about what you can bestow on others or what others are bestowing on you. It's the puzzle piece that fits together. But sometimes we have labels that we've given ourselves. I'm the matriarch, I'm the musician, the lawyer, the artist, the athlete, the friend. And those labels are really been important to us in making meaning and figuring out our world and how we fit into our world. But what I want you to think about is, first of all, there may be labels that you've given yourself that don't work anymore, and they're not serving you well. But there are other labels that maybe you just need to redefine and think about a little bit differently. For instance, if you're the matriarch and everybody comes to you and you make the beautiful dinner and have all the holidays, is that all that makes the matriarch? What about teaching others? What about the wisdom that you have to share? Don't sell yourself short. Same thing with athletes, friends. If you're a musician, how can you twist it and turn it and name that essence of who you are and now think about it in a new way? Because I think that's what we're all doing, is we're learning and we're growing our whole lives. And Parkinson's, it's part of who you are. It's part of the puzzle, but it doesn't define who you are. I've always felt when people said to me, Sharon, I can't even tell that you're blind. I don't even know you have Parkinson's. They think it's this great compliment, but I don't think it is. It's okay if they don't notice and they don't know. But if you're going to know all of me, that is a piece of who I am. And I want to be known and understood completely. So what I'm saying to all of you is take that extra step to reach compassion. And compassion means to journey with. Let others journey with you. Let them in. Also, journey with yourself. Find compassion for yourself. Don't shame yourself for not being enough, for not doing enough. Instead, journey with yourself and again, learn and grow. And finally, have compassion for those people that say really stupid things. Just give them a minute. Have compassion for them and help them. And finally, because Sharon had that great picture at the beginning with the alone in the crowd invitation, I looked on Google Images and I decided this is my image of the twitchy women. A little messy. Not everybody looking the same, but ready to lean into each other and ready to offer what they have to each other. Thanks.
Thank you. Wow. That was amazing. Got a lot of people enjoyed it. Thumbs up.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. We don't have a lot of questions yet. If you have questions, put them in the chat.
If you have questions, or like I said, this is something that I haven't really been able to find anything on things like this in this particular slant. So if it resonates with you, I'd like to know.
There's some comments I want to read because they're quite cute. I sang it. Penny Erickson says she sang that, and I'm assuming it was the Copa. I sang that in high school, yes, with fruit on my head and a layer skirt of ruffles my mother sewed for me. Love it. The gratitude feels forced sometimes. I think we all get that. Amen.
Yeah, and that's why the delight, like just letting it be a tiny little thing to be delighted for today, instead of that forced, heavy feeling. And it really helps me loosen things up.
I love it. Dawn Ella says, I have always been the fixer. And that's been my role in life. I think, are you an oldest child, Dawn? I think as being the oldest of 3 girls, I was always the fixer. Let's see. I like this one. This is the most excellent. Thank you, Sharon Squared. We're a good team. I reminded my partner it is okay for him to ask me for help, so I will feel okay about asking him for help. Very good, Sparky. You spoke to me, well done, absolutely inspiring. In gratitude for your courage. I completely give myself, oh, where did it go? We're moving. I completely give myself permission to cry. It clears up the angst and helps me move on. And I will send out the link for the recording, so don't worry about that. You'll get that in the next day or 2.
Sharon, it's very difficult to hear you. Is anybody else having that problem?
Are you having trouble hearing me?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Sorry, my computer is this any better?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's supposed to be going through my AirPods, but it's not. I don't know why. Okay. Clarified a bunch for me. My doc said, don't let it define you, but I still need to claim PD as part of my life. To not let it define me doesn't mean leave it out. Lots of compliments, a lot of delight. Any suggestions for turning the conversation from my PD to the whole me? And one last one, during this pandemic, I have felt like I am an Israelite wandering in the wilderness. So Sharon, can you respond to those last 2?
Yeah. I think they actually kind of connect in that it's the whole you. I think it's been really hard during the pandemic to figure out what am I depressed about or what am I worried about or where's my stress level coming from or my anxiety. So pieces of that can be pandemic, isolation, you know, all those pieces together. And so I think sort of sorting through that and using these categories to say what's upsetting me right now today, how am I disconnected and why and where can be helpful. And I think talking about the whole of who you are, again, sometimes it takes breaking it down for yourself. And if you want to talk to somebody, a friend, I'm not sure where that question is coming from, but you could start a conversation with, you know what, we all have labels so that we think about ourselves. I think of myself as, you know, I'm a chaplain, I'm a mother, and offering that person a way to talk about the wholeness of them back to you can give a conversation that's coming now in an even keeled way. So sort of offering the, like I said, who am I? Who is the whole of me? I'm still uncovering that for myself.
Could I ask you, is all this information in your book?
No, I don't have a book.
Oh, sorry, wrong person.
That's okay. Maybe I'll write a book now.
Yeah. Or
well, I'll talk to Sharon about writing some bullet points for everybody to send out to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a role for palliative care earlier, and how do we get it covered by insurance?
Very. Very good point. Very good point. I mean, I don't really know exactly how it works. I work in an acute care hospital setting. So if the doctor orders a palliative care consult, if you're in the hospital, then it's covered by insurance. And I don't know how it works outside, but I think it's finding the right palliative care doc is really the issue. It's a newer field. So for oncology, a lot of oncology offices have palliative care docs or nurse practitioners embedded in their practices. So sometimes it's the particular specialty. But I've heard one doc once sort of saying it's sort of new to think about Parkinson's and palliative care. It's really new to be connecting these two things together. So you might find a palliative care medical person that's thinking in terms of other things.
There is a Parkinson's blogger, I think it's Kurt Hall, I will find it, who writes about palliative care and speaks about it. And I'll see if I can find something and I'll send it out to all of you.
Well,
okay.
And I think it's putting together this team. You know, that's kind of what we do when we put our teams together, is we're kind of doing our palliative care, you know, together right now in this way.
Yeah, and with our peer-to-peer counseling.
Oh, that's the other thing I meant to mention, actually. It was in my slide, but I never mentioned it, is another place to get those education through FACES. I've had a mentor through Sharon, Susan Lehman, who's been a fabulous mentor to me. And it's been really, really wonderful and helpful just to have somebody to bounce something off of one-on-one. Somebody who's kind of a little further down the road than me, who can kind of center me and help me think through what I'm going through. So I can't say enough about that.
Okay. One last comment, and then I think I'm going to move on and wrap up. Sparky says she just joined palliative care and was diagnosed just 2 years ago. The Parkinson's Foundation suggested it to her. And palliative care is covered by Medicare.
It is. It's just finding the practitioner. So it's not that it's not covered. It's that it's finding the practitioner.
Yeah. So, and Susan Sterling says, please write this. It's definitely something to write up in a long article, if not a book.
Oh,
and maybe you can write something up and I can put it, you can be a guest blogger for me.
Right.
How's that sound? So moving on, I'm going to share my screen in a second, but in yesterday's Wall Street Journal, which you may or may not have received, it says how Zoom towns are reshaping America. And we are basically a Zoom town. We're not a business working with people working from home, but we have become a Zoom town because we are coming from all over the place and meeting together. So if you get the Wall Street Journal, take a look at it. It was a full-page article in the review section. Eli, can you put my slides, the next slide up for me? Okay, let's see. Okay, so the virtual tiara, Sharon, goes to you. And we thank you for your amazing presentation. And so glad that you suggested this to me. I'm really glad that we have had you here today. Next slide. In 2 weeks, we're going to be celebrating 1 year. Yay! Today was our 25th program. Next week will be 26. Or in 2 weeks will be 26. We will have Stephanie Goodman from the Art of Expression, Parkinson's Art of Expression. And I think we'll be doing some acting and you know, I don't know what we're going to be doing. We're going to be having fun. And because it's our 1 year anniversary, we're going to be celebrating. I have some giveaways. We have t-shirts being designed. So we'll be giving away some t-shirts. And then in April 11th, we're going to skip 2 weeks because it's Passover and then Easter and everybody's busy. So April 11th, we're going to have a Parkinson's Awareness Month program. I don't know what it's going to look like at this point. If you have any ideas, send it to me. I'm thinking of a panel discussion with several of our women who will answer anybody's questions. So that may be it may just be a Q&A session for an hour, just have a good time. And next slide. Okay, I don't know how many of you have signed on to PD Avengers. If you have not, please do so today. On March 16th, we are going to be flooding the White House with these letters. Everybody's going to be putting these letters in the mail, which say, give a dime for about Parkinson's. And on the back of it, you will be asked to answer the question, why I give a dime about Parkinson's. Sparky, you wanted to say something about this? Go ahead and unmute yourself. You there?
Here's the website to go, and you can learn all about it, and you can print a letter to send.
Okay, I don't know that everybody can see it, but go to endingpd.org and you can learn more about this. I have it here on the screen. You can print the letter to send. If I don't know if they have time to send them to you now, but you get all the information here.
But you can print the letter from them.
You can print the letter, yeah. And the book is called Ending Parkinson's Disease. We had one of the speakers, Ray Dorsey, spoke to us last summer about this. He was fabulous. So basically, you're going to put this in the envelope. On the back of it, you're going to say why you give a dime about Parkinson's, and we're going to put it in the envelope and send it in. And this is how March of Dimes got started, by the way, was by putting a dime in the envelope and sending it to the president. So let's flood the White House with red letters.
And
Okay?
Sharon, may I add something?
Yeah.
It comes for any of you in South County. I believe Lauren from PD Buzz has some left. I'm sorry, South County, Orange. Let's do this again, Kim. Orange County, but the south part of it in California. I believe Lauren from PD Buzz has some left. I'm in North County and I have some left. We both ordered a group of them. So anybody that's real local and knows us, feel free to come by. But also, ones we have already come with a stamp on it and everything. So it's easy peasy.
Yeah. And I have a bunch here. If you live in West LA, let me know and I can get some to you. I think I have about 15 or 20 left.
And I'm carrying them a couple in my purse. And so when I see somebody that I can talk to, I hand them the envelope and it has the letter in it, the envelope, and ready to sign and mail.
Yeah, give it to your friends, your family, anybody. You know, they can say, my friend has Parkinson's.
Right.
Whatever it is, you know, just get them out. We want to get them out there. And there's going to be a program the morning of March 16th on Zoom for everybody to show their red letters. And we're going to put them in the mail. So with that, let's see, question. Kimmy, we must have received your form. I don't know. We will check into it about mentors. Oh, and Metaflix. Kim, Metaflix is a new Metaflix.tv is a streaming TV service that you get through your computer or phone or laptop, and it's educational programs about Parkinson's. Check it out. I wrote about it this week. And Penny Erickson, you teach nursing students. Can you order a bunch for them to mail? I will give you the information. Send me an email and I will, because I'm going to forget this. Send me an email right now and I will tell you who to get in touch with. It may be too late to get a bunch of them, but you can print them out online. Okay. And next slide. Again, as I said before, we are celebrating, we have partnered with the Mayrow Foundation, which will make it easier for us to do a little fundraising here and keep these programs going. So if you're interested in contributing, we really appreciate it. We will be delighted to have you participate. And watch for those t-shirts in 2 weeks. And I think that is, I think there's just one more slide, just our final goodbye slide, and then we're going to turn off turn the recording off. And I want to thank our speaker, Sharon. You were absolutely fabulous. The reviews have come in and they're wonderful. We